Ptolemaic Cosmos is central to our understanding of the scriptures. It underlies the cosmos of the Bible and indeed al-Qu'ran, but also it is the basis of divine timing found in Islamic science, such as that found in Shams al-Ma'arif. I would contend that this divine timing is somewhat misinterpreted by medieval European translators, and that this misinterpretation has been carried forward into the Western magical tradition. And no criticism is implied here, but from an Islamic perspective, too much emphasis is placed on this timing and not enough on the divine. The geocentric model, that is the Earth at the centre of the universe, was the dominant description of the cosmos in many ancient civilizations. Ancient Greek, ancient Rome and medieval philosophers usually combine this geocentric model with a spherical Earth, in contrast to the popular myth. And this included Aristotle in classical Greece and Ptolemy in Roman Egypt. In fact, within Islam, it's often seen as and known as the Aristotelian cosmos. The astronomical predictions of Ptolemy's geocentric model, developed in the 2nd century CE, served as the basis for preparing astrological and astronomical charts for over 1500 years. The geocentric model held sway until the early modern age, although the model was gradually superseded by the heliocentric model of Copernicus 1473 to 1543, Galileo 1546 to 1642, and Kepler 1571 to 1630. According to Plato, the Earth is a sphere stationary at the centre of the universe. The stars and the planets are carried around the Earth on spheres or circles, arranged in the order outwards from the centre: the Moon, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, fixed stars, with the fixed stars located on the celestial sphere. In the Aristotelian system, the spherical Earth is at the centre of the universe, and all other heavenly bodies are attached to 47 to 55 transparent rotating spheres surrounding the Earth, all concentric with it. These spheres are known as crystalline spheres, all moved at different uniform speeds to create the revolution of bodies around the Earth. They were composed of an incorruptible substance called aether. The Aristotelian model has the Moon as the innermost sphere and therefore touches the realm of the Earth, causing the dark spots, macula, and the ability to go through lunar phases. This is linked to the terrestrial elements: earth, water, fire and air, as well as celestial ether. The Earth was the heaviest element, with the strongest movement towards the centre. Thus water formed a layer surrounding the sphere of the Earth. The tendency of air and fire, on the other hand, was to move upwards, away from the centre, with fire being lighter than air. Beyond the layer of fire were the solid spheres of ether, in which the celestial bodies were embedded. They themselves almost entirely composed of ether. The Ptolemaic system was developed by the Hellenistic astronomer Claudius Ptolemaeus in the 2nd century AD, and this standardised geocentrism. His main astronomical work, the Almagest, was an accumulation of centuries of work by Hellenic, Hellenistic and indeed Babylonian astronomers. For over a millennium, European and Islamic astronomers assumed that it was the correct cosmological model. Ptolemy argued that the Earth was a sphere in the centre of the universe, from the simple observation that the stars were above the horizon and half were below at any time, with stars rotating on a stellar sphere, and the assumption that the stars were all at some modest distance from the centre of the universe. He in fact developed a mathematical system for calculating the position of the stars based on this cosmos. It actually worked very well. The Ptolemaic order of spheres from the Earth is the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, fixed stars, and the premium mobile, the first moved. In the Enneads, Plotinus describes the One or Goodness as the animator of the universe, but not the creator. But the One is unknowable, the One is all-powerful. Because the One is unknowable, there are no adequate ways of describing it. The One initially animates the nous, which is a perfect image of the One. The nous being the highest sphere accessible to the human mind, which also begins pure intellect itself. The image and product of the nous is the universal soul. The image is immaterial like the nous. The nous or spirit is indivisible. The universal soul may preserve its unity and remain in the nous. As a single universal soul, it belongs in the essence and destination to the intelligible world, but it also embraces individual souls. The soul as a moving essence generates the corporal or phenomenal world. The world ought to be so pervaded by the soul that its various parts should remain in perfect harmony. As long as ideas govern matter or the soul governs the body, the world is fair and good. But in the actual phenomenal world, unity and harmony are replaced by strife or discord. Ultimately, everything comes from the nous, sometimes interpreted as the One, and indeed returns to it. Early Muslim astronomers generally accepted the Ptolemaic system and the geocentric model. Al-Khwarizmi, the mathematician, produced the first major Muslim work of astronomy, Sijzi al-Sindhind, in 1830. It contained tables for the movements of the Sun and the Moon, and the planets Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter and Saturn. The work introduced Ptolemaic concepts into Islamic science and marked a turning point in Islamic astronomy, which had previously concentrated on translating works, but now it began to develop its own ideas. Whilst the Aristotelian and Ptolemaic systems held sway, Islamic Neoplatonism adopted the concepts of the One and the first principle, the One without transcendence, to Islamic theology, attributing them to Allah. Indeed, Neoplatonism was seen as confirming the view of Allah in al-Qu'ran. In particular, the idea that everything begins with Allah and returns to Allah. Also borrowing the idea that the world and everything within it is an image of Allah. So Islam merged Neoplatonism with that's found in al-Quran. But beginning with Al-Kindi circa 801 to 873, the peripatetic philosophers place Allah at the apex of the cosmos. Indeed, he is the creator of this cosmos. Al-Kindi says that these bodies are rational entities whose circular motion is in obedience to and worship of Allah. Their role, Al-Kindi believes, is to act as instruments for divine providence, while still implied in his model is a geocentric model. So Allah, or nature, is at the centre, the kursi, the throne, chair or footstool, and then the planets. What we call Earth, Dunya, is below the domain of the moon, the mansions of the moon, or days, being central to divine timing. This is important as being above the moon has no temporal plane, i.e. no time and space, whilst the Earth has a temporal plane of time and space. And it's this temporal plane which prevents us from truly understanding Allah. Below this level are the elements or elemental sphere of earth, air, fire and water, and these combine to produce everything within the material world. Angels are charged by Allah to maintain the balance within the cosmos, with angels corresponding to planets. As they have no free will, they simply seek this balance. They do so by transmitting the light from Allah. Darkness, or some might call it evil, is an absence of light, and then therefore a removal from Allah, a concept which some might like to describe as karma. An alternative theory, also from Al-Kindi, was that planets produce stellar rays, which influenced the material world and man. This is the basis of Islamic astrology, from which Western astrology is derived. His evidence being that the different seasons are marked by particular arrangements of the planets and stars, most notably the sun. So the appearance and manner of people varies according to the arrangements of heavenly bodies situated above their homeland. That is, people who are born at a particular time and space are influenced by the planetary alignment. Everything in the world is infinitely connected, including the heavens, which influence the world via these stellar rays. So these explain not only divination using astrology, but also the harnessing of these rays. Abul Mashar al-Bakhani, 805 to 885, noted the casual influence of celestial beings on terrestrial life forms. His treatise In Doctorum in Astronomium, or Kitab al-Muktab al-Kabir, spoke of how only by observing the great diversity of planetary motions can we comprehend the outnumbered varieties of change in this world. But by the 10th century, texts appeared regularly whose subject matter was to cast doubt concerning Ptolemy Shushkuk. Some Muslim astronomers believed that the Earth rotated around its axis, such as Abul Said al-Sijzi, circa 1040. According to al-Qurani, Sijzi invented an astrolabe called al-Zukri, based on the belief held by some of his contemporaries that the motions we see is due to the Earth's movement and not that of the sky. By the 11th century, al-Sindhind wrote a scathing critique of Ptolemy's model in his Doubts on Ptolemy, circa 1028, which some have interpreted to imply he was criticising Ptolemy's geocentrism, but others would disagree. Certainly by the 12th century, al-Zakil questioned the Hellenic idea of uniform circular motions by hypothesizing that the planet Mercury moves in an elliptical orbit, while Apoterigus proposed a planetary model that abandoned the equant and epicenter and epicentric mechanisms, though this resulted in a system that was actually mathematically less accurate. Apollinaris also described the Ptolemaic system as an imaginary model that was successful at predicting planetary positions, but not real or physical. His alternative spread throughout most of Europe during the 13th century. Fakir al-Din al-Razi, 1149 to 1209, when describing physics and the physical world in his al-Matalib, rejects the Aristotelian and Aventinian models of the Earth's centrality within the universe. He argues that there are 1,000 worlds, Alafa al-Fini al-Walim, beyond this world, such that each one of these worlds be bigger and more massive than this world, as well as having the like of what this world has had. In Andalusia, non-Ptolemaic configurations were produced which eliminated the Ptolemaic calculation. These were more accurate than the Ptolemaic model in numerically predicting planetary positions and were better in agreement with empirical observations. The Moraga school was an astronomical tradition beginning Moraga Observatory and continuing with astronomers from the Damascus Masjid or Mosque and the Samarkand Observatory. The Moraga school's revolution was against Ptolemaic astronomy. The Moraga astronomers attempted to solve the problem of the circle around whose circumference a planet or the centre of an epicenter was conceived to move uniformly and produce alternative configurations to the Ptolemaic model. Critically, however, without abandoning geocentrism. The most important Moraga astronomers included Mayuddin Urdi, who died 1266, Nasir al-Din Tusi, 1201 to 1274, Qutb al-Din al-Shirazi, 1236 to 1311, Ibn al-Satiyah, 1304 to 1375, al-Qurashi, circa 1474, al-Birandi, who died in 1524, and Shams al-Din al-Kharifi, who died in 1550. Ibn al-Satiyah, Damascus astronomer, 1304 to 1375, working at the Umayyad Masjid, wrote a major book entitled Kipat al-Nihat al-Suf fi Tashi al-Usul, a final inquiry concerning the rectification of planetarian theories, which was a theory which departs markedly from the Ptolemaic system. In fact, his theory is mathematical identicus to that of Copernicus, 1473 to 1534. At the Moraga and Samarkand observatories, the Earth's rotation was discussed by Al-Tusi and Al-Qurashi. The arguments and evidence they used resemble those used by Copernicus to support Earth's movement. However, the Moraga school never made the paradigm shift to heliocentrism.